The only thing that we're interested in is putting money in your wallet. If you want to bet the fights, if you want to have a little bit of action, you are in the right place. With my partner, Ian Parker, I am Brett Okamoto.
We're ready to rock between our parlays, our props, our straight picks. It's time to make money. Let's go. And we are back in Las Vegas this week for the UFC card as we take a live look at Allegiant Stadium where the Super Bowl will be this week. Welcome everyone back to another episode of UFC Best Bets. I'm your host, Ian Parker. My co-host, Brett Okamoto, is not here next week, but we will be together in Anaheim for UFC 298, which I'm pumped for. Topuria Volkanovski, let's go. But before we get started, let's do a recap of last week and let's see how we did. It was a really interesting card. In overall recap, our best bets went 3-2-1. Delizde and Imavov over 2.5 rounds. A brief scare thanks to Herb Dean for letting that fight go on. Imavov won. He dominated minus a few illegal shots. We got there. Money Moicano did work against Drew Dober. Brown Salikov. This one really threw me off because Salikov got knocked out for the first time in his UFC career, and he didn't do it in over 2.5 rounds. Natalia Silva, this one stung a little bit. I thought she won across the board 30-27, but hey, judges are going to be judges. And Mahmoud Murdov, that fight lasted 11 seconds. He took a nasty eye poke, which ended in a no contest. We missed on the parlay, and the prop of the night we missed by split decision. However, let's take a look at this weekend. Jack Hermansson versus Joe Pyfer, main card. Start off with Adolfo Vieira versus Armen Petrosyan. This is the third time the UFC is trying to get this fight, so let's hope we get there. Michael Johnson, Darius Flowers. Brad Tavares versus RoboCop, Gregory Rodriguez. That could be a potential fight of the night. We got Robert Brycek versus Ihor Peteria. Dan Ige against Andre Touchy-Feely. And then to the main event, Jack Hermansson versus Joe Pyfer. Let's talk about this main event. This is the opportunity Joe Pyfer has been looking for. He said, I want a 5-round main event against someone who's in the top 10. Jack Hermansson fits that bill. Hermansson has fought essentially everybody. He's a good grappler. His striking is based on volume, a lot of leg kicks. But when we're talking about the main attraction here, this is really going to be, is Joe Pyfer ready for the big time? We're going to find out. A 92% finish rate, 3-fight UFC finish streak. And man, this guy's got great takedown defense. We saw in his last fight against Hassan. He also has got a sub-game here. Now, the one question that I think myself and a lot of others have is, what if this fight goes past round 2? Is Pyfer prepared for the cardio, for the volume of Hermansson? I think he is, especially in the apex where the cage is smaller, less ground to cover. I think he could do it here. I think this is the right matchup. Hermansson looked pretty good against Roman Delizde until he didn't. You know, he's fought other guys like Jared Cannonier, power punchers, is where he kind of gets a little hesitant. He's someone who does not like to get hit, and if he can't get the fight to the floor and be on top, I think he's going to be in a lot of trouble here. Now, the line sits at minus 285 for minus 265 for Pyfer. I just can't take that on the money line yet until he proves to us that he is the real deal. And don't get me wrong, I'm a Pyfer fan. I believe in it. But Hermansson is no slouch. This is the right test. So for me, I'm going to take an interesting shot here. Or maybe it's not that interesting. But for Pyfer to win at TKO or KO, we are getting plus money. You look at his last 3 bouts, minus 400, minus 200, and minus 550. He looked minus 1,000 in all of them. And against someone in Abdul Razak Al Hassan, that's a real tongue twister. That was a very dangerous opponent. But we knew that if the fight did go to the floor, Pyfer can get it done. And on that show, I did say look for Pyfer to get the sub there because he's got a sneaky ground game. He just hasn't had to show it yet. I expect him to keep it on the feet and get the win. Maybe round 2 or 3 if Hermansson can't get this fight to the floor. Now, let's go to the co-main event. This one's very, very interesting to me as well. Dan Ige is taking on Andre Touchy-Feely, one of the funnier nicknames, and a seasoned vet. This is the second fight Feely's taken on short notice. His last one against Lucas Almeida, he won by knockout. And this one, he's taking on someone in Dan Ige, who's just a very dangerous fighter, very smart, well-polished. And look, against most of the division, he's done exceptionally well. Against Bryce Mitchell, he lost the decision. Some people thought it was closer than the way the judges scored it. But we've seen him in fights against Nate Landauer, against Damon Jackson. We've seen him fight guys like Calvin Kattar. Someone like Andre Feely coming into this is one of those fights where I think if Feely doesn't knock out Ige or get it going quick, Ige's going to use that control. He's going to use the clinch. He's going to use the pressure. And we've seen Ige. We know he has power in his hands. We saw it against Gavin Tucker. We saw it against Damon Jackson. So a plus 250 to win by TKO or KO against someone in Feely. who's been stopped many times before. I don't hate it, but I also don't mind the decision. But right now, the fact that the line is only minus 170 with Feely, I think that's just a result of Feely getting a good knockout win, being a seasoned vet. So give me Dan Ige at minus 170. I would take that as high as minus 185. All right, so let's take a look at the rest of the main card. Rodolfo Vieira versus Armen Petrosyan. I've gone back on this fight a bunch of different times. Smaller cage. Petrosyan only has a 33.3% takedown rate against someone in Vieira who I think has gotten better. His punches should be able to set up those takedowns. I'm going Vieira here. Michael Johnson, Darius Flowers. Look, Flowers took the fight against Jake Matthews on short notice. I get it. I still didn't like what I saw to him, and Michael Johnson might be just the most unlucky fighter to ever grace the octagon. This should be a win for him. As long as he doesn't get caught with something wild, which he has, I think we get a win here. He should be minus 175, minus 135. I like that. Brad Tavares versus Gregory Rodriguez. Look, this is a high line. Rodriguez, we expect a lot out of him. We've seen the jiu-jitsu. We know he's got power, and Tavares is a seasoned vet. The line's a little high, so we're going to throw him in our parlay. We're going to go with Breezcheck over Pateria. I do not think that Ior Pateria is UFC caliber. I don't care that he beat Shogun Hua. So is everybody else, since the guy is like 100 years old. Give me Breezcheck. If you've seen him in the Octagon organization, he's a very talented fighter. Dan Ige, Andre Feely. We just spoke pretty heavy on this. I gave you Dan Ige the money line. We're also go as my long shot prop of the night. We're going to go with Dan Ige by decision at plus 165. And last but not least, Jack Hermansson, Joe Pyfer at plus 110. I'm taking a shot on Joe Pyfer to win by KO or TKO at those odds. To me, how do you not? Because at some point, we are not going to get plus money with Joe Pyfer. Now let's get into the prelim picks, where we're going to have a lot of fun here. Hopefully we do better this week than we did last. Let's start off Trevin Giles versus Carlos Prates. Look, I think this fight goes over 1.5. Giles is going to probably be able to use his jiu-jitsu, at least look for it, to keep the power away from Carlos. I'm going with Oki over Kwamba. Lumo Lukabumi versus Bruno Brazil. I think the line is a little wide here. However, if you wanted to throw Loma in a parlay, she has beaten a lot higher level competition before. And Bruno, who has the reach, she just hasn't shown us that she's capable of using it yet. I think Loma gets the win there. Devin Clark at minus 235, another parlay piece for us. The wrestling, I think he's a more physical fighter than Praknium. Should be able to get it done. When this line came out, I was shocked. Max Griffin at plus 135. I understand Jeremiah Wells presents, he's a madman. He's very chaotic. He's good on the ground, but we've seen him get dropped. And if he can't wrestle Griffin, who's an excellent defensive wrestler, I think Griffin gets the win. Now let's go Paga, Emil, and last but not least, Daniel Marcos. And that's going to be our prelim picks for this event. Moving on to what we all hope to win this week. I've not hit one yet. I'm determined. I think this one's it. Parker's parlay. Let's go RoboCop, Gregory Rodriguez, Devin Clark, and Daniel Marcos at plus 175. We're getting 3 2-1 favorites. This has got to be the week that I hit this. So let's go. Moving on to the next one. We got our best bets. Originally, I had 6. I did like Hyder Emil, but he jumped to minus 200, and I cannot take a guy debuting from the Contender Series at that number. So let's go Dan Ige, Breezcheck, Michael Johnson, Rodolfo Vieira, and at plus 135, I'm going to go with Max Griffin here. I see a lot of value there. I think he's a better striker. He's got the seasoned experience. I'm hoping he can get it done there. Let's go with the long shot parlay this week. So here's what's interesting. A couple weeks ago, Marc-Andre Barriault losing by split decision. That was the only loss. Here, I'm going Ige by decision, Vieira by sub, and Max Griffin at plus 1473. I think this is very, very doable here. I think if Griffin is the first one that hits, the other two, I'm not going to say high chance, but I think we can absolutely get it done. Now, look, this is a very fun weekend. We got UFC at the Apex, but I'm going to do something a little bit different this week. I'm going to give you guys a Super Bowl pick that really stood out to me. I'm going to go with Travis Kelce, anytime scoring touchdown, and for the Chiefs to win. Some of you guys may like the Niners here. I get it, overall well-rounded team, but I don't see Brock Purdy being able to come back if they go down by 14 or more points to the Chiefs defense, and I just don't bet against Patrick Mahomes ever, let alone in the playoffs or a Super Bowl. So Chiefs to win and Travis Kelce to score a touchdown at any point. Guys, it's been a fun one. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's cash these bets. Hopefully I see you guys all at the pay window for UFC Vegas 86. And I'll see you guys again next week in Anaheim for 298.